As a longtime Maschine user, one of my biggest wishlist items is for Native Instruments to update Maschine's internal audio effects. What's up guys, Barry here, and if it's your first time on the channel, we talk about beat making and music production within the Maschine. So if that's your thing, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. With that said, in today's video, I'm going to share with you 3 very different free EQs that are worth checking out, especially if you're doing all your mixing and mastering within the Maschine. The first EQ is super simple, but with its simplicity, you'll find that it integrates perfectly with the Maschine hardware. The kilohertz EQ gives you a low shelf, which allows you to go plus or minus 16 decibels, a high shelf, and a bell-shaped EQ for your mids. In the window that displays your EQ curve, you have 2 splitters that allow you to dictate the width of your different bands. Double-clicking on any of the parameters resets it to its default. Additionally, right-clicking allows you to type in the desired amount of boost, cut, or frequency. With there only being 5 parameters, they perfectly fit on one page of macros, which allows you to use Maschine's hardware without scrolling through different pages to find what you're looking for. The interface also contains an analyzer which displays your incoming signal, a feature Native Instruments needs to incorporate into Maschine's EQ. An analog style EQ that adds color to your sound should be in every producer and music engineer's tool belt. Below the main EQ section, you'll find an input knob, which allows you to boost or cut up to 10 decibels. Next, you'll find some presets, the option for oversampling, and at the end, you'll find the output knob, which allows you to boost or cut the outbound signal. And just to the left of the output knob, you'll find a mix knob that doesn't control the wet-dry signal. Instead, it controls the tube emulation. At low levels, it adds subtle tube harmonics. Cranked up, it adds tube saturation. Moving on to the EQ section, you'll find 2 switches. The first switch on the left allows you to bypass the EQ while still sending signal through the unit, which allows you to drive some input and add character through the mix knob. The switch on the right totally bypasses the plugin. The EQ itself really only gives you control over the lows and highs. On the lower end, you have a frequency selector where you can select predetermined frequencies from 20 Hz to 800 Hz, and simultaneously boost and cut at and around the frequency based on how broad or how sharp your cue is set. For the higher frequencies, you have a separate frequency selector for the boost and the cut. The boost allows you to select from 3 kHz to 16 kHz, whereas the cut selector goes up to 20 kHz. By the way guys, down in the description you'll find links to all these plugins, as well as some other free goodies. Alright guys, so the first EQ is a simple one, but it integrates perfectly with the Maschine hardware. The second one adds warmth and color to your sound. The third EQ will act as your all-purpose EQ. On the bottom left of the interface, you'll find a high pass and low pass filter, which allows you to use subtle slopes starting at 6 decibels to a near brick wall filter. Moving to the middle of the interface, you'll find the selectors for your different bands. The free version of Nova gives you 4 dynamic bands, whereas the paid version gives you 6. Each band gives you the option to select a bell-shaped curve, a high shelf, and a low shelf curve. Engaging the threshold button changes the band from one that is static to one that is dynamic, giving you more control and options for sculpting your sound. Adjusting the threshold will determine how the EQ reacts to the signal. With Nova being a parallel dynamic EQ, you have a mix knob. Turning it to 100% allows you to EQ the entire signal. Moving to the top of the interface, you'll find just a handful of presets, but you'll also find the option to change the EQ to one that is mono, stereo, sum and diff, meaning mid or side processing, and left or right processing. Lastly, you'll find the sidechain menu. So whether you want the dynamic EQ to react to the internal signal or an external one. What makes Nova even more powerful is that you can have one or multiple bands be static and another one dynamic, as you saw by band number 2 acting independently being triggered by the bass. With that said, let's try it out with the drums acting as the sidechain. So we're going to change the sidechain input from internal to external, and on the Maschine software, we're going to the sidechain input page and select the drums as our source. Alright guys, so those were 3 very different free EQ plugins that are definitely worth checking out, especially if you're doing your mixing and mastering within the Maschine. Down in the comments, let me know if you want me to continue this series and make videos on other audio effects. With that said, hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already, and happy beat making. Peace.